Good evening. 6.0 reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1 call to order. The Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:34 p.m. 6.2 roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish a quorum. Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, Running Springs, Arrowhead Lake, Green Valley Lake.
Dan Ridland, area 2. Cindy Gardner, area 3.
Scott Kraft, trustee area 4. Dr. William Millinger, trustee area 1.
We have our quorum. We'll move on to 5.3, Pledge of Allegiance, led by our Jim Zimmer. Would you mind?
Yay, Jim.
Yeah.
Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move on to 7.0, closed session report. 7.1, announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session. On a motion by board member Cindy Gardner, seconded by board member Scott Kraft, and carried on a unanimous vote, the board approved the non-reelection of the probation and certificate employees listed effective the 2023-2024 school year. Head code 44929.21B for employee ID number 3269. And additionally, the board voted unanimously to approve the expulsion for case number 07-23/24. Those are our reportable actions from closed session. So we'll move on to 8.0, public testimony. And I do not believe we actually have any comment cards that were submitted. So we'll go ahead and move forward in our agenda to 8.3, Ring Teachers Association representative. Do you have one here tonight? Okay, President, please come forward.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, I would like to acknowledge the positive communication happening between the district and the teachers. We hope this continues and grows. There are still issues that need to be addressed, such as class size and support for our classes that we look forward to solving together. We're at a very busy time of the year with testing approaching, field trips, performances. Tomorrow, the high school will have its second GLOW assembly, which the students have been looking forward to. For RTA, it is also our time of voting. The vote on our tentative agreement ends at midnight tonight. We'll keep you posted. Our association looks forward to working with this district to make the district the jewel of the Inland Empire, as it was once nicknamed. We want to have schools and programs that encourage families to move to the mountain, and you want to have a district that attracts teachers to the area as well. Let's work together to make that happen.
Thank you. Madam President, is there ever a time when the teachers aren't busy?
No.
Thank you.
With that, we'll go ahead and move forward to our California School Employee Association representative. Do we have a CSEA speaker this evening? No speaker at this time. We'll go ahead and move on to 9.0 announcements. 9.1 superintendent, first reading of the September revisions to the attached board policies, administrative regulations, and board bylaws. They were submitted for revisions by CSBA and reviewed by the administration. I'll pass it on over to Dr. Serviano to open up in case any board members have questions.
Brilliant. Not 68. What? 68 pages, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we've seen all of the pages at this point.
Yeah.
But any questions from the board? It's a hefty packet. But I appreciate it. I appreciate not only does CSBA's membership really pay for itself in bringing forth and ensuring we stay on top of new laws, new regulations, changes in ed code, but also that our own district administration reviews it to make sure that those recommendations made by CSBA do fit and are in line with our district. So
I would also like to acknowledge the work of staff who has assembled this large packet, as well as the administrators who've reviewed all of the new policies and administrative regulations. Thank you.
with that, we'll go ahead and move forward to 10.0 reports and presentations, 10.1 governing board members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share this evening?
Do you want to call on it? And then we can say yes or no.
Sure. Andy, you want to start with anything?
Two quick things. Hello, everyone. First, really enjoyed time with trustees. Since our last board meeting, had time with trustees at MPH and also at LAE and got some really tremendous input. Great questions, great turnout, a lot of positive, and that was really super cool. I know that we have a lot of things that we need to work on, but it's very encouraging to hear the enthusiasm of our community and also of our staff, knowing that we have our challenges, but there's also a lot of love and care. So it was invigorating to attend those time with trustees. The other thing I really want to quickly mention is one of our teachers, Jessica Mazakis over at BOE, is on top of being very busy with her classroom responsibilities, is organizing a health and resource fair that will be at BOE on June 14th in the afternoon. That's after the school year ends, and she already has over a dozen booths that will be there, probably even more. There will be free physicals, not full physicals, but athlete checkout to be able to make sure that they're okay to be able to participate in sports, which is a requirement for athletes at the high school. So oftentimes students may not be able to participate initially with their teams until they get this paperwork filled out. They have the opportunity on June 14th to attend this event and be able to have that all taken place. So that's really awesome. There will be dental screenings and dental sealant being applied. There will be immunizations, especially for our newer registered students. They can go ahead and, with appointments ahead of time, be able to get necessary vaccinations so that they can start the school year in school and at their respective schools. So this is for all of our mountain communities, and it'll be on June 14th. And I want to make sure everybody have that calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go even. So trustee area 4, Scott, you want to go next?
Since I was called out, I guess I better go. You know, I like what Amanda had to say because she alluded to a balance, and I think we're finding that balance within RTA and our entire staff. Our entire staff at the school, we're looking to make things as equitable as we can for everybody. And I think the board's working hard towards that. I think our staff at the district office is working super hard towards that. And everybody seems to be communicating well and working towards that. The one thing that I see that's still missing is the students. And I know the students are receiving a lot of wonderful care and attention from our teachers and our staff. But I really am hopeful that we can keep pushing for this bond that'll make our classrooms and the environment the safest it can be for our students. I think our students need that more than anything else. And I'm very hopeful that we can all come together and continue to work together and provide our students with the number one thing that they need, and that's safety within our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll switch over to odd numbered trustee area, school code, maybe 135.
So now we're dealing with the odd trustees. Thank you. It's, I just want to say again, it's a privilege to welcome Dr. Sevillano. I know that he is going across the district and meeting people, and I've had some time, a couple of hours actually, with Dr. Sevillano, and I appreciate his professionalism as well as his sensitivity. And I think he really is going to be helpful to our entire district as we go through moving on from past experiences. I also think he can be very helpful. I join my trustee to my right, Scott, and his emphasis on the bond. I'm just going to keep saying it, and I'm saying it everywhere I'm at. This bond is an extreme necessity for us. And it's a necessity in many, many ways. And I want to lift up again that number one, it's about security. We have got to provide the kinds of resources that are going to bring more security to our campuses and therefore our students and our staff. That means security touches every person in our district. We also have obviously some significant facility needs. Jim is not going to have an issue with a job because of our facility needs, but we would really like to get ahead of some of those things. That said, both Cindy and I participated this week. I'm sure she'll say something about this in Legislative Action Week with CSBA. We did that on your behalf, and a couple of things that we were speaking towards were reducing the number of reports, Jenny, that need to be done. We were counting up with some of the people in other districts, both Jen and Jenny. There's must be something like 21 or more different reports that have to come out of this office, the district office. And those really need to be reduced across this state. So that was one of the things that we were pushing for. And that it actually is a bill, SB 1315 by Archuleta. We also were encouraging that, how should I say this? We are expecting a $73 billion deficit in the budget this year. That's capital BILLION, $73 billion, and it may be worse than that. What that may do to school budgets this coming year, one of the things that the governor is talking about doing is borrowing from the 98 funds that we're supposed to get every year, a minimum that we're supposed to get, which we never get more than the minimum. But now the governor is talking about borrowing from those funds in future years. That would greatly hurt us in the future and even now. And so the CSBA and board members actually, we're speaking to each of our assembly, and we met with Tom Lackey's assistant. We met actually with Senator Ochoa Vogt. Incidentally, she asked for an opportunity to be face-to-face with board members. She'd like there to be a gathering of board members, and she really appreciates the opportunities to get with board members. But in speaking to both of them, we talked about the fact that we cannot have less than what 98 already commits. Proposition 98, a proposition years ago that set a minimum level for educational monies to be given to education. We also, in that, asked for them to really seriously consider a statewide bond that would actually provide additional funds, that if a local entity like us got a bond and got that approved, we could get matching funds from the state fund that would be set up. There again, that has not occurred for over a decade or longer since the last statewide bond. And schools are treated differently than any other kind of bond. I just need to say that. The state has to provide, I think we want that, has to provide education, has to provide the resources to do education. And so the state, Proposition 98 set a minimum level for that. And then with that, we're also suggesting that they open up an office for small schools that would actually help them do the buildings, facilities, and things like that, set aside an office that actually would work with the small schools, which we are not a small school yet. We're still at, what's the number today, Jimmy?
Roughly 2,800 students.
2,800 students, praise the Lord. 2,800 students, but if we ever drop to 2,500, we then officially become a small school, which would need small school resources. We're right on that edge, and we are already affected by the fact that the same things that other small schools are. In addition to the fact that we're in a rural community that has weather that is different than most places and other issues that we face that make facility needs even greater. So we need to continue to advocate for the resources, not just within our community, but from across the state for education.
Thank you. We'll move on to Cindy.
Okay, so, we all attended CSBA Ledge Action Day, which was a great experience because you're in the room with other board members speaking the same messages. One concern, I went to the Lake Arrowhead Municipal Advisory Committee, the MAC, and one big piece is that we are advocating to at least maintain our programs. No cuts in May. When the May revise comes, we want to maintain our programs. We don't want to add new programs, and we definitely do not want to cut our programs. The Legislative Analyst Office, the LAO, is the one that is projecting a $73 billion deficit, and they gave a menu of options of cuts to education for the governor to consider. That means no universal meals, pulling back ELOP money, pulling back money from the TK, a transitional kindergarten program. Transportation, thank you. I was like, I didn't say that. We just gained, well, we're not full beneficiaries of the transportation add-on, but it's just the fact that districts need to be reimbursed for their transportation. And that is suggested on that menu of options. So it's not, but the menu of options is nasty. It hits kids hard. It hits teachers hard. And of course all of our other employees, but it's just sad. So we're advocating big time to maintain programs, all the existing programs. That's the big push. The other thing that tomorrow I fly to San Francisco, so hopefully we're not late because I'm on a 6:30 in the morning plane with lots of coffee. Maybe I'll just keep drinking coffee all night and then I'll be fine. Anyways, we will be starting to look at more and more bills to take positions. One bill that already the Ledge Committee took action on is the requirement that boards have governance training. But the interesting bill, the way that it's phrased is that any entity can do the board governance training. And so there's a concern that outside entities other than CSBA will do the trainings, and it may be a little biased. It may not be objective. It may not be thorough to California. And so that bill with the mechanisms in place, while you want to have boards trained, you need to do it properly through an entity like CSBA. So CSBA obviously is opposed to that bill. So I'm excited about that. So I'll have more stand-ups. Right now it's taking a little bit of a break. We'll be dark this month and next month. So we'll be meeting again in May. The San Bernardino School Boards Association Executive Committee is putting on an annual award ceremony at the end of April, celebrating people that have gone above and beyond in the area of education. So that'll be exciting. So we're all invited. I forgot the price, even though I'm the one that set the price. Oh, it's $60. It's $60 per.
Can you explain why you set the price?
Oh, because I'm president. I'm
Congratulations.
president of the executive committee for it. And so I didn't, it was a vote. I'm not the boss, but I'm just saying it was very exciting. And I am under the other ledge report, we'll do some more, Jordan, because we have other tasks to talk about. Oh, I want to thank everybody who came for time with trustees at each school site. We made every single school site in this cycle. And we did Brim High School twice, once right after school and then one at 6 o'clock for members of the community that work to come to. So we appreciate all of you who came
and spoke to us at each of the school sites. And I think it was well appreciated. Do you guys think so? I think it was well appreciated that we made that concerted effort. And then I think that's it for me.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and start. And yes, as both Bill and Cindy mentioned, that projected budget deficit statewide increased from the LAO's initial estimate in December of 58 billion to thank you to 73 billion. So it's a really large increase, and the name of the game right now in the advocacy world is preserving as many student education funds as possible. And on the other side of the advocacy effort, I met with Senator Ochoa Blow's office on a lot of budget preservation items as well, including preserving supplemental meals paid for at the state level to ensure that universal meals make it to all of our students. So that is another area that we're hoping can be preserved and saved in this budget cycle at the state level. So we'll continue that advocacy work, and I think there's more to talk about in the legislative report. So I'll keep it there because I think we're already, a little bit, wanted to get us out early. So I'll move us on to,
You don't want me drinking coffee all night, do you?
we'll move on to 10.2, our legislative report, Trustee Gardner.
Okay, so as I said, Sandbags is stuff this, stop, don't laugh at me, Jim. This month and next month, but in lieu of that, the legislative committee will be working on bills. There have been some bills that have been taken a position on, like I just told you about the board training. I'm gonna stick to this, but the Sandaz had started discussing the bill 1429 that would change ed code to allow snowstorms to be put on the list of emergencies and allow for local and county agencies to declare an emergency rather than just the state, which will allow us to pivot more quickly to be in response to the disaster or the emergency. One thing is that we're hoping is then Jordan, I'm going to say it to you because we were asked, thank you, Jordan, for being this liaison with Senator Ochoa Blow, who is the bill author, for Grim to actually sponsor the bill. So Jordan, take that.
Yes, actually, it's an action item on our agenda this evening, 11.1. Will be to discuss sponsoring the bill that we helped provide input on, SB 1429. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I can talk about it in that discussion item, but I'll also note that that bill is going forward to a hearing in the Senate Education Committee on March 20th. So that'll be part of what we need to sort through if we do move forward with sponsoring that bill.
No, Mr. President, I am good.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to 10.3, our superintendent report, Dr. Paul Seviano. Your first one.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for allowing me to go out to your schools and out to your departments to meet with your staff. I think that's been just a really positive thing for me to get to know the staff, understand the needs and how we can be more responsive to employee needs at the district. Everything is not doom and gloom. Our students are going to continue to thrive and our teachers are going to continue to excel. We're going to continue to do the great work of our district and move us forward. I'm very, very proud to be your superintendent. And the intentions of those visits have been really, really enlightening to me to understand the needs of the district. I will continue to go out not only to meet with staff, I'll be meeting, I've started to meet with parents at PTA. I will continue to go out to MAC meetings. I've attended 2 different ones, as well as 2 Rotary meetings to get to know the community and understand the needs. And also like to have some student forums and be part of that Jennifer's already started. But really for me, I'm thrilled with being here, being at this district and knowing the quality people that we have in this district are going to continue to do amazing things. So I'm going to be a little bit more positive about that. And in spite of the budget, what's probably down the road we're facing, we're going to continue to do well as a district. And I want to thank you for allowing me the time to come out and visit your sites. Still got one more, I think, to visit. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to 10.4, student representative, and from the World High School, you want to take it away?
Hello, everybody. This is a presentation for the March school reports. All right, starting off with the elementary schools, CHG had many events for Read Across America, including our delightful Breakfast with Books event to encourage reading habits outside of the classroom and to strengthen the bond between families and reading. CHG's RAA also included a week of spirit days, including our Wacky Wednesday, pictured here, where students were encouraged to dress up in their wackiest, most imaginative outfits to celebrate the whimsical spirit of Dr. Seuss and other beloved children's authors. VOE has been selected to participate with Shot with a Cop. 10 staff members will receive $250 gift cards to enhance the learning of their students in classroom. County Superintendent Ted Alejandre and the Sheriff's Employees Benefit Association shop will be at VOE on Monday the 18th for the celebration. The Ontario Reign hockey team graciously donated 2 hockey tickets to each student that participated in VOE's Read Across America. Moving on to Mary Putnam Hague Intermediate, Lion Loot incentive redemptions have increased since the implementation of the positive shoutouts during our morning announcements. 8th grade student activities and field trip eligibility requirements have been updated and shared with the 8th graders. MPH staff is having great check chats to help students meet their goals. MPH administration has conducted learning walks where evidence of teachers communicating student learning goals aligned to grade level content standards in classrooms is evident. The yearbook class had a successful and fun trip to Disneyland on March 7th. MPH administration will visit 5th grade classrooms the week of March 25th in order to support the transition to the best middle school on the mountain, MPH. Additionally, elementary schools are coming to MPH for a campus visit, barbecue, games, and campus tour the week of May 13th. Mountain High School. Personal Finance, which is a new 6-week credit earning opportunity hosted by RIM Family Services, started this week. 8 students were recognized for earning 10+ credits during Credit Check Celebration number 4. 3 students were recognized as part of the new 2023 to 24 PBIS program for meeting one or more aspects of SOAR. S stands for success driven, O for optimistic, A for attentive, and R for reliable. RIM Virtual Academy. RVA staff attended the Digital Learning Annual Conference in Austin, Texas. Mrs. Phillips shared, DLAC was amazing and had a plethora of information. It was so nice to meet and hear from other educators from around the country and close by who have been doing virtual schooling for years. RVA, with the guidance of Marina, has many systems in place that were discussed at DLAC and was a great reassurance that RVA is thriving. This included onboarding new students, intakes, academic success, and meeting students' needs, SEO. Moving on to RIM High School, RHS will host its open house and freshman orientation on March 20th. RHS counselors will visit NPH 8th graders on March 19th. This will give incoming 8th graders an opportunity to view our programs firsthand before selecting their classes next year. Orientation will begin at 5:30 in the Wilkins Gym, and open house will begin at 6 o'clock. On Friday, March 8th, RHS baseball played against San Gorgonio High School at Angel Stadium. This fundraiser was 2 years in the making and gave our players a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Next week, RHS will host Days of Understanding with Keith Hawkins. This nationally recognized program will provide our sophomores with an opportunity to connect with each other and the campus, as well as gain empathy and compassion. On March 25th, we'll be hosting instructional rounds. This structured teacher-peer observation is a proven technique to improve instruction across school sites. And that's it for the March school reports.
Thank you so much. A lot of great things going on. We'll go ahead and move forward to 10.5, Educational Services, presentation for the proposed Rim Athletic Association School-Wide Parent Booster Club. Brian Williamsy, Physical Impact None.
That's why you're here.
It's gonna make me look good. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we wanted to speak with you about a proposal that we're kind of trying to spearhead in coordination with our parents and our sports across the campus. What we are looking to do is to take our current model of our booster program, where each sport has their own individual booster, and put that under one umbrella that encompasses all sports. The idea is to kind of create a little bit more equity and parity across the sports. This is an idea that is already being implemented in other districts. Redlands has bench warmers, Bear Valley has the Bearbackers. It's the same idea, and it's kind of ideal for a small school. So what we'd like to do is kind of walk you through what it would entail. There's nothing on the board agenda tonight for this. This is just an opportunity to kind of start the conversation, because there probably will be questions about it. And then we'll bring that to you in a future board meeting, the actual bylaws and all that you can vote on in the future. All right, so we're just going to really briefly talk about, what a booster is, the purpose, the sort of events this booster club could handle and put on, as well as the structure, and then any potential concerns that come up. And then we'll talk to you guys about any questions that you might have. So first off, Mr. Rees will explain exactly what a booster is.
So in a nutshell, a booster is a nonprofit organization located and operated in the boundaries of a given school district. They're organized to promote youth and school activities, provided that they use school property for fundraising activities shall be for the benefit of the youth or public. In a nutshell, we're looking for a singular, cohesive unit that can bridge the gap between the high school, as far as the athletes, the coaches, the parents, and also the community members who we're most often engaged with.
So kind of like what Mr. Ebersport was just saying, is the whole idea is to put this under one umbrella and make things a little bit more consistent across the entire campus. We have some very, very large booster programs in certain sports and non-existent booster programs in other sports, sometimes involving the same kids and the same parents. A perfect example is if you look at our boys volleyball team, for example, it almost mirrors our boys basketball team. Basketball has a huge booster, volleyball has almost nothing. And so by putting it under one umbrella, we're able to provide a little bit more consistency across the sports and help support all of the sports instead of just ones that, because of particular socioeconomic group or tradition or whatever, has a little bit more support. Also, speaking as a multi-sport athlete parent myself, I have one son in 2 sports. I have another son go to the high school next year to be in 3 different sports. This parent will be involved in 5 sports. This parent will not be involved in booster clubs. But this parent might consider joining in on an event of one booster club that's going to benefit them throughout the entire time at high school.
And then just to add to that, it says at the bottom, this is just essentially the mission of what the organization will look like. But again, it's a single entity that connects all stakeholders seamlessly, right? With a goal of promoting equity. And what often we find happens is that a lot of our programs that are fall sports are the first ones to the well, so to speak, in the community, asking for help. right? And by the time we get to this point of the year, this spring, or even in the winter, a lot of the businesses who are very, helpful to us and support us financially, they say, well, we'd love to, but we've already donated, right? So, it also gives us the ability to do events and to fundraise on a grander scale. As you well know, right, numbers are very important. And if we have a joint effort by the parents and the community members as one entity, we'll be able to generate more revenue and in turn support students a little more wholly.
So,
So this will be the general outline of planned events for the upcoming year, and the intent would be to maintain them every year. They will go seasonally, and I apologize because they're out of order. The Hall of Fame would be the fall kickoff event. Okay, we are starting a athletic Hall of Fame at the high school this year, so it'll be the first year that we're doing that. Assuming that everything goes according to plans, we'll also be having a Hall of Fame dinner the night before the induction ceremony. I'm gonna skip, I'll do Mr. Zarati's evens and odds here. I'll go to the other odds, Spring Sports Gala, which would be our winter event. This is essentially borrowing from one of our more successful boosters, which is the Ski and Snowboard Club. They are already doing a similar type event. We are not looking to recreate the wheel. We're gonna take what's already being done successfully and just make it bigger. Going back to number 2, the golf tournament, we'll endeavor to run a golf tournament, a large scale golf tournament, every spring. Golf tournaments historically at RIM have been run by the baseball program and golf program, and they've been highly successful with just a few people helping. And then finally in the summer, we'll be able to launch a casino night. The wrestling program as well as the football program are both currently doing it. So as a joint effort of just them two, along with the rest of the sports, we think that we'll be able to have nice events, which also promote the community having more to do than just write a check, right? We want to get them face to face with, stakeholders that normally they wouldn't come in contact with.
All right, so our basic structure would be, and all of this can change, right? This is just our proposal, and then the group takes it over and they can re-identify themselves. This is us just providing a framework for them to start. Is that basically we'll have 5 standing board members, that are predetermined in the bylaws. We'll have 4 committees, one that's events, those ones that Mr. Reesberg just spoke of, scholarships and awards, Hall of Fame, all that stuff, concessions and apparel, as well as membership sponsorship, which can help work on getting that fancy new scoreboard in full working order and getting ads up on the scoreboard to help generate money through that way. In addition to that, each of the sports will have a liaison that comes back and forth and talks to the committee about what they need. The needs of sports are very, very different. Our shred team, which goes up to Mammoth twice and Tahoe once, has a much greater financial need than our tennis team does, right? And that's okay. We're not necessarily trying to say everyone get, you get $5, you get $5, you get $5. The purpose is to meet the need of all the sports. And then ultimately, we have such a strong community engagement within our programs as a whole. So this will be a great opportunity to balance both the current parents, which will obviously be a big heart and soul of the institution, but also there's so many community members out there that already invest so much, and to be able to have that balance for some stability throughout time would be really, really beneficial. Yeah. And so, inevitably we expect, this is a big shift, right? If we have this booster club over here that's raising $50,000 a year and this booster club over here that doesn't exist, inevitably there's going to be some questions that come up. So some of the ones that we're kind of just throwing out there of how we envision this going, if you have any questions as well, we would love to hear them. First off, where is the money going? The money's going directly to the sports based off of what the sports tell us that they need, right? If the sports liaison, the coaches come to us and say, hey, we're in need, maybe one year football is like, man, these pads, we've got to roll out. It's a $20,000 investment. Okay. But then maybe next year they don't, but that next year the soccer team needs goals, right? Also the idea that, you don't have to give to all sports. If there's a parent saying, I want money to go to the wrestling program because they're going to this tournament, great, we can do that. Each sport will have their own line item in the booster. There is no expectation that, you $5, you $5, you $5. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible while increasing equity and parity in the sports. The other one is, can current parents be involved? Absolutely. That's the whole point of a booster organization, is that the parents are involved. The sports liaisons will be parents. There'll be a balance of parents across the board. There's going to be opportunities for parents. And what's nice is that it's not a parent that have to sit on a football booster board and a wrestling booster board and a basketball booster board, right? They're able to be involved with one entity and have that go-between across all of the different sports. Raising money for the programs, Ryan talked about a couple of the events we have, but there's also the ability for sports to generate funds on their own if they need to. That is absolutely, you see a need in your kids' sports. It happens so often. It's like, oh, we really want to go to this tournament. Tournaments are so expensive, and a parent writes a check for it. That's okay. That's all allowed, and it's going to be a balance between what we keep in the booster accounts and what we run in through the ASB accounts. And that's just basically where, ease comes in. Booster money is usually a lot more easily accessed than ASB money is. And so that's going to be a consideration across the organization. And then finally, how do you account for the varying needs of programs? That's what those sport liaisons are for, right? We understand that, there are certain very cost-heavy programs, some that the district's able to support, some that we have to supplement. And Shred's a perfect example where that is a very cost-heavy program, and we're always working very, very hard to ensure we're not excluding kids. And so that need of that program is going to be much higher, and they do a ton of fundraising, and so that's where that board is going to balance the needs of the sports liaisons as they bring the budgets in, and then they figure out how to best spend the money so that we're maximizing opportunities for all kids across the entire program. At that time, I'd like to open it up to any questions or comments that you guys have.
I'm excited because one thing that I do get from some of the business owners in the community is, in the old days, I used to see the kids' faces. They'd come into my place of business and say, I'm fundraising for football, I'm fundraising for this. And the community member, the business owner would go have a chitty chat and then donate money. And that doesn't happen as much. And some of it's for safety reasons. You don't want kids just being in unsafe places. But I think that, like you said, that interaction at these events allows the business owners to get to know the student athletes and have that FaceTime that they say that they're missing, that connection. So I think that making this purposeful and strategic with the business owners and the community members that are wanting that FaceTime, so to speak, with their students, but in a more managed situation, I think is brilliant.
Yeah, that is a large part of the intent, and there are going to be considerably more opportunities for those moments to take place that haven't even been listed up there, just simply because they're not going to be your quarterly event, so to speak.
Yeah.
Mr. Clancy. So I've heard you use the word sports multiple times. So what about the other booster clubs and booster organizations? Are they going to be included or not?
So currently at this time, it is just for athletics. Honestly, the sources of revenue that the other booster clubs make, predominantly band and drama, are kind of a different source. That, they're leaning heavily on Arrowhead Arts, they're leaning heavily on Blue Jay Jazz Foundation, and those things that are geared towards the arts specifically. And I don't know, and perhaps it comes down to that point, but the initial thought right now is that their source of revenue comes from very different locations than the athletics. And I don't know that asking Arrowhead Arts to jump in and now support all that is really what their focus is. So if that comes as a potential in the future, absolutely. What we do see is football just went to Sky Park. Cool. Now wrestling wants to go to Sky Park, and now Sky Park's burned out with helping Rim athletics, right? And so that's where the initial attack on this is. That's certainly a conversation for the future, but I think at the current time, making sure that we're not disrupting those revenue streams for our arts programs is equally as important.
So that brought me to the second question, which you really started touching on, is what's been the motivator behind this?
It's coach driven. Coaches need the help. In all honesty, it's a larger entity that has the capability of bringing in much more money. The truth is that we're currently thinking very, we're short-sighted and small-minded, right? This is an amazing place to live, and we always say it because of the word community. And we need something to bridge the gap because it's honestly not there. You know, it may be uncomfortable for people to hear, but we don't see the same community engagement in the stands as we used to. And I think part of the reason because of that is because we don't have a unifying force at the high school reaching out to businesses and older community members who used to have students involved in the school district and tying them back together, right? So the coaches have come together and said, hey, listen, this is a tremendous amount of work for us to do, is to run our own booster to subsidize ourselves, right? We're having to organize the casino nights. We're having to do this fundraiser and send kids out and do this and this and this. Why can't we all get together as coaches and have this one unifying force? So it's coach driven for starters.
To that point, having had kids who participate in athletics as well, I was always amazed by how much was on each individual coach's shoulders. The fundraising, the coordination, I mean, beyond just coaching, all of the logistics. So I'm thinking this is really exciting because it becomes almost punitive to be a coach in terms of on top of the athletics, all of the other things that they have to contend with.
It can be, and just to reach, I think it was you, Ms. Gardner, who was talking about businesses that don't come in, right? So when I used to coach, I hated fundraising because it was time that I couldn't spend on the court or with kids, right, teaching them. So we used to do these really easy fundraisers where we would send them in and do a ball sponsorship or this and that. One of the things I moved to over the last 6 years was this company called Snap Race, and not including football, we've raised $120,000 over the last 6 years. Kids sending emails.
Mhm.
Right, so it's a ton of money that's generated. Is something that they'll also be doing. But the negative to that, right, is it's quick, easy money that coaches don't have to do a whole lot of work for. But
It's a discount.
exactly, so this is the intent behind this, is to get people back together as well.
So I agree that my number one concern would be that the arts does get pushed out, because just like those smaller sports kind of get pushed out sometimes and are limited fundraising. So that's a concern I have as well. I think this is a great opportunity for all the coaches to come together and the community to come together. But more importantly, I think that it's going to benefit those first-time coaches, those coaches that are the first and second year, where they can come in, they can coach, and everything is going to be set there for them so that they have a forum to go to and they don't have to organize it all themselves, because that gets so overwhelming for coaches. So I see it as a benefit all the way around. I think it's a great opportunity and it's long overdue. So thank you for pushing for this.
One additional suggestion, you mentioned the scoreboard and being able to find sponsors. I know going around to other campuses, they also have banners that are up on, say, tennis courts on the fencing. And there's also been an idea thrown out to have a low fence along Highway 18 to be able to provide advertising as well. And if it was a way to provide an additional revenue stream for the athletics and possibly arts as well, just some ideas to throw out.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the sorts of things, the scoreboard's a perfect example where that's a pretty heavy lift, you know, and we're getting in contact with businesses and we're creating designs, and there's parents that are willing to just do that if they're given the proper direction, and, you know, the banners in that same line of thinking. So yeah, absolutely. And that's where we're maximizing what we can provide to our students, you know, while leveraging what we have with our small limited staff, obviously.
As far as oversight from the school district in terms of the boosters, we already have that in essence with the existing boosters that we have. Is that going to be labor intensive for our staff to be able to manage?
I don't think so. Our you know, the booster entity is by definition a separate entity than the school, right? And what makes it easy to work with is because we're not going through, you know, 45 ASB hoops that we normally have to go through. I think if anything, it gives us a lot more peace of mind about the financial stability of across all sports, because like I can't speak to the 501c3 paperwork of all the different boosters across campus, but I will about this one, you know. And so I think being able to streamline it and get into one organization, albeit a bigger organization, will make us feel much better about the process as a whole and all of the monies that are coming and making sure the monies are coming to the students.
In the other schools that you've looked at, has there been any loss of support because it's not focused on a sport?
No. When I was up in Big Bear, we had barebackers. It was well known across the entire Big Bear Valley that that was the institution to go through for sports, and it increased it. I can't speak to the Redlands. I'm not sure, but with my previous district, it was absolutely a benefit and resulted in more revenue and sports getting what they needed when they needed it.
Thank you, gentlemen, by the way.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move forward to 10.6, business services, update on the budget and enrollment report. And on the 2023-2024 second year on financial report and the certifications of the district's financial position. Jenny Haberlin.
Thank you, Shannon, and welcome. Thank you for having us here tonight. I thought of some information after I already compiled a report that might be helpful. So I'm passing out just another slide I'll get to later, but it was like, oh, why did I think that when I was putting this together, to today, yesterday and today. But I wanted to start off by saying, it's that kind of time of the year in March where we have to certify our financial position and complete the second interim financial report. And the financial report it encompasses we review data, enrollment, attendance, actual financial activity and projected financial activity. We work on our multi-year projections. We're mandated to support a 3-year multi-year projections, but we also submit a 5-year multi-year projection to our county office who has oversight and responsibility for the district. And then we revise our current year budget. And this is kind of starting the process of working on our estimated actuals and budget development going into April, May, and then presenting the budget in June. And so, we're mandated by March 15th to certify our financial position and bring this to the board. We've already submitted our reports to the county office. That's due a week before the board meeting. And so they have what they need in the supplementary work, cash flow, and some different historical data. Okay, there's 3 types of qualification. I'm not going to belabor this. We've talked about it before, but for people that may not know that we can certify our fiscal solvency and our budget with 3 different types of certification: positive, qualified, and negative. And that's determining whether a district can meet its financial obligations in the current and 2 subsequent years. The district is filing a positive certification. And we just tie everything back to what our district board goal, and that is our board goal number 6, and under budget, infrastructure, and resources. Wanted to start to just a snapshot. We present this slide to you each month, and it's a point in time with our enrollment. And we're currently have completed our 7th attendance month of school. And attendance month is a 4-week period of time from the start of the school year. And you can see here that the amount in the trend line in gold is our current year, 2023-24, and our enrollment is sitting at 2,863, so just a little over 2,800. And then with, as Dr. Mallinger mentioned earlier about the small schools, when I do believe that designation comes from ADA. And as our ADA goes up and down, we'll, be closer to that 2,500 mark here, before we know it. Okay, our corresponding ADA this year, or this, this month is just over 2,600, so 2,611.87. The district is running about a 91% attendance rate. We're really status quo, with the averages across the state of California. But it's also, a lot lower than, the pre-COVID era. And we've, had, with a lot of districts in California, we've suffered our attendance rate and chronic absenteeism has been an issue, and which correlates into funding. I mean, in the back couple of years ago, there were some hold harmless rates that the state still paid us for some of those, that could go the COVID period. But it's rebounding slightly. We need it to continue to rebound. So we're at about a 91% attendance rate district-wide. And with the exception of RVA, none of our, we had the Strive for 95 campaign that used to be very popular several years ago. And we always thought, well, let's not strive for just 95, let's try to get it to 98%.
It would be great.
It would be great at 98. I think that's what it was gonna be. But right now, just getting back up to that 95% average, which the district was really, did well at, prior to COVID. So, and all the other schools are hovering right around 91%. Okay, wanted to take a snapshot, in the highlighted in yellow is projected because those years haven't happened yet, but this is our CBEDS enrollment. And we paid, CBEDS are the first, it's a census date, first Wednesday in October. And it's a snapshot in time of what our enrollment is. There's a lot that goes into CBEDS other than enrollment, but we certified our unduplicated count, our enrollment, and on the personnel side there and services side, there's a lot else that goes into it with credentials and staffing and student placement and programs. But you can see how our enrollment decline was a little bit steeper. Then we've really been at a leveling out, either a small decline or just a static enrollment, and really looking at kind of a post-COVID era, looking at possibility of kind of going back to normal when we've been historically had a 3% decline, other than some big years where we've had 5, 6, 7, 8% over 1 year. And typically pre-COVID, we were running about a 2% mid-year from August to June. We would typically lose about 2% of our students, another 3% from June to September. That has not happened in the last several years, and so we're really waiting for what's our new normal? Is our new normal flat enrollment? Or is our new normal, just modest decline of like a 1 or 2%? So that's what we're really going to be paying attention to, because we don't have enough non-COVID related data to say, is this a trend? Or until we're, we're really seeing what our enrollment's doing.
So how are you coming up with your estimated numbers?
And we look at our enrollment every month, and we account for matriculation and attrition. So first graders become second graders, fourth grade, sixth graders become seventh, eighth become ninth, our graduating class, and then our incoming TK and Ks. So we map that out on a 4-year kind of rough schedule, and as we move all those students up a year, and you can see in the next slide that we do have, this is that same, the amount of decrease, okay? That's why it's inverted, because the top axis starts at 0. So as you can see in the 25-26, we have a larger decline projected, but that's because we have some higher enrollment classes that as they move through the system, a higher class graduates, and we've had lower kindergarten classes coming in. Even with TK, our numbers are still lower than they used to be. It used to be every kindergarten class in the district would be about 100. You can count on that, and we're not seeing anything near that anymore. So, and you can see kind of as these classes move through, sometimes we can see that 5th grade class that was, I've shared this before, my son was in one of those classes, that they were the biggest class at the time, and they were all boys.
you know, and so as they kind of went through, you kind of watch these classes get, go, and so that's what, is it a perfect science? No, you know, we have looked at, you know, is with the cost of living, you know, where are students just moving locations to the more affordable regions of our mountain, you know, in the VOE territory and Hoffman territory, you know, will that impact us? And we're probably due for another type of like geomapping study in which kind of gives our hot spots of where our students are living and then corresponding where the average median household income is. And we've had graphs like that. They're a few years old though, and you can kind of see where our income levels are on the mountain and where possibly new families would be moving to.
What might also impact that is possibly short-term rentals turning into long-term rentals that might be more affordable as well. So hopefully that'll have a positive impact.
Yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something on my notes. Okay, this is a snapshot. I put it into to every presentation when we report on our interim our interim financials. And with the inception of LCFF and starting in 2013-14, you can see what our historical revenue base for under the LCFF. And like we talked about in the legislative discussions is that minimum funding under Proposition 98, which really does set a minimum guarantee for school districts based on the state's constitution. And you know, we've advocated for years. It would be wonderful if the state funded us above the minimum that they had to by law. So, but you can see in years, especially as we were having the full phase-in of LCFF, you know, districts were funded at a higher rate while they were getting to full implementation of LCFF. And one of the purposes behind LCFF, the local control funding formula, was to get us up to the 2012-13 budget levels, but only the 2007-8 spending power. And you can see how with the 2007 and 8 versus to even 12-13 with inflation and cost of living and the impacts on district's budget, it's still it's even more of an argument of why Proposition 98, you know, should be funded higher than it is. So just throw some advocacy in there. So I added on here because I wanted to show the actual percent. We've talked about this, I think a couple of months ago, we did have a dedicated slide during the non-reporting period on the actual increase in dollars versus what the statutory COLA was. Because it's not necessarily the district received last year 13% additional revenue. Yes, we had a super COLA, we had additional, you know, we had a 6%, roughly 6% COLA, and they had added to our base revenue, which increased the COLA. But you can say that didn't necessarily translate into a full 13% additional funding for RIM because of factors like declining enrollment, lower attendance rate, and changes in our unduplicated pupil percentage, which impacts funding. So just so you can have that for your information, going into this year, we had an 8.22% COLA. I have it in italics because, you know, we don't have full certified LCFF funding until we close the books. We have all the attendance and enrollment in. We have some ADA that comes in on an annual basis, like you know, some county special ed programs. So, you know, that it can vary slightly once we close the books, but it's not a material dollar amount. But the actual cash received was 4.706. So, you know, if we look at dollars, not necessarily percentages, as we evaluate the budget. Another thing is that, you know, we're funded on the greater of current year or average now of the prior 3 years. ADA, whichever is greater. So I'm very thankful I don't have to do all those calculations myself because I have a state software that does it for me. We just have to put in the numbers, but it's a little bit of a convoluted calculation. I know, Jordan, at one time I sent you the FICMAT LCFF calculator. I didn't know if you had a chance to play with it or not, but it is a lot of protected cells in that, so people can accidentally, mess things up when they think they know Excel real well. But, so as you can go through, you can see some of our decreases year over year, and that's largely to do with maybe a high year ADA falling off of that 3-year average, and kind of truing up. I don't know if you remember some of the presentations a few years ago at CSBA or at School Services when Mike Fine, when we started looking at the 3-year average. And, it's really just, we're thankful for it because it gives us time, but at some point, those low attendance rates will catch up to a district's budget. But it does give you time to know that what is coming, and you can see going into next year, we're expecting a reduction based on current. If everything were to stay the same, we would have a reduction in overall LCFF funding, and this is part of the multi-year projections that we've already gone over. This isn't anything I've had to recently book in the system. But I just wanted you to be able to look at it. And talking about COLA, I'm not going to read all that, but just, COLA isn't necessarily a number because of how much things cost more today, or else we'd be in 20% COLAs. It's really a year over year increase in goods and services, and it's a federal number, not necessarily even, specific to California. But this is a historical look at our COLAs and what's projected to be our COLAs. And when we have the governor's May revision proposed in May, we could have changes to the 24-25 year and subsequent years, and we would probably expect that. But then we'll use the May revise numbers to build our budget and those multi-year projections. Same data, just in a graph. You can like to see it instead of looking at a bunch of numbers. And so I just threw that in there for you. Okay, looking at kind of a piece of our pie, how total LCFF, what the components are. Now we have our base grant, supplemental grant, which we have a large lead to do with the LCAP. And then our supplemental concentration grant, our add-on for TK. So that's part of it. So if we hear that TK funding is going to be a target, then that's going to impact our total LCFF dollars. And then what's added on for transportation and targeted instruction, our targeted instruction is very little, it's like $30,000. But the majority of that 1.7 million is what we receive for transportation. Now, we don't receive the extra dollars for transportation that Cindy referenced because we don't, we are already funded at the 60% level. Our apportionment is already at that 60% level of our cost. But some districts who have exceeded that 60%, or they added transportation. Those districts are the districts that you're seeing that have been able to participate in the newer funding. I think we're one of 3 districts in San Bernardino County that do not receive extra funding for transportation. That the new bill, should have provided for. Okay, I've been talking a lot, so pause just for a second while I flip my pages over. The next couple of pages, I'm not going to go line by line either. It's just a snapshot of our multi-year projections. And I did, because I can't get it all on the screen, especially in the future years, I printed this out on landscape for you. You have a copy of it in your packet, because then just with a little more detail. And it looks real little up there. So, kind of turning that into a landscape document for you to look at and take home. So as you can see, we just our revenues and expenditures, the ending fund balance. I wanted to make a note highlighted in yellow there in red. The current second interim financial report and multi-year projections do not include the current settlements that we're working on with our bargaining units. So we will use second interim as a base add the costs associated with those agreements. And that is what's, I've already submitted the document for RTA, but that's what's submitted to the county, for the 8,100, for the potential settlement. So these numbers do not include, placeholders for that, but that will be presented at the next board meeting when that is brought for board consideration. Okay, and moving to the 24, 25, and 25, 26. Again, our positive ending fund balances, we just have to certify 3 years, but we always look at 5, because especially small declining enrollment districts, our county office, who has oversight, requests that we work on a 5-year multi-year projection, because that's just the prudent and conservative to see what's, because in a couple months, our current 4th year is going to be my new 3-year, as we start building our next year's budget. Okay. The pictures worth 1,000 words, for the slide in our total expenditures of our budget. One thing that we hope to have relief, I don't think it will be coming in the next couple of years at all at the state level, is the added costs for STRS and PERS. You can see that STRS contributions of 19.1% of each dollar in payroll, and the current 26.6 of PERS, and PERS is expected to go up to 28.9, and actually in the 27-28 year hit over 30% is what they're projecting at this point for every dollar of PERS employee. And it would be like someone like myself in the classified unit management or bargaining unit. Okay. Okay, the multi-year projections, we always have assumptions that go into multi-year projections. We have our LCFF revenue, which we spent some time on. We update any known changes to the budget for state and federal programs, maybe changes in Title I or additional lottery revenue, interest that because of a lot of the one-time COVID dollars, our funds in the county treasury were higher, therefore our current year interest revenue would be higher. Those things aren't, that of course isn't ongoing because the COVID funds are expiring. We included in the multi-year projections are step and column increases for all units, health and welfare increases for certificated and retirees, a reduction of staff based on enrollment decline, and any known changes. We have some positions that were naturally vacant. We've postponed layoffs in 2021-22 for across every classification, and we've been utilizing COVID-19 dollars, to be as allowed to, kind of the continuity of operations and to retain staff. With the ESSER and the other COVID funds expiring, those costs either it's a layoff or those costs get absorbed back into the original budgets for which they were spent largely on the unrestricted side of the budget, or on a restricted side, but a budget like special ed that has a contribution embedded in it from the unrestricted side. So we've made those adjustments in our multi-year projections, kind of those plus minuses as these positions get rolled back into their prior kind of placement within the budget and funded accordingly. So that's included in your multi-year projections as well, adding these positions back. We have increase in PERS costs, savings from prior year negotiated items. We have projected increases to special education expenditures. We have increases in budgets for natural gas, electricity, and fuel due to escalating costs. We have reduction to accounts based on one time. We have restricted funds that we didn't spend last year. We carried those into this year, spend them this year. Of course, we're not going to carry that budget forward. We're going to reduce it. And that's just kind of budget housekeeping. And then we do have the one-time revenue and expenditures from our sale of the surplus Blue Jay property. That's in the budget this year. You won't see it, of course, in the budget next year because it wasn't in an ongoing revenue stream or expenditure. questions on it? All right, there's specific, I touched on this a little bit, but specific increases or decreases in the subsequent years. And I wanted to just maybe put positions to some of those positions that we were able to fund with one-time dollars. An IT tech, counselor, one maintenance worker, a 0.4 FTE of our district librarian, one administrator, credit recovery options at Rim High and Mountain High School, certificated staff over our staffing ratio, resident certificated subs, resident transportation sub, extra aides over our past practice, additional psychologists over our past practice, or due to an increase in special education students, contracted services and special education, and transportation charges that we charge to offset parent pay for transportation. All right, pressures on the district budget. I think we've talked about this even in your opening comments. So some of this is a repeat, so we can get, I won't belabor too many unless we want to have some conversations about it. But we do have rising special education costs due to an increased number of students and higher needs. We have increased CELPA costs, that we're charged from our CELPA. Increasing health and welfare costs, just the amount per employee for Blue Shield or Kaiser, goes up every year, but, next year we are seeing, as budgeted Blue Cross, increase, but Kaiser we're going to have a, increase over what was budgeted. We have flat to declining enrollment, lower ADA percent, and chronic absenteeism. We do have an expectation of reduced COLAs. We touched on that. Possibility of apportionment deferrals. I'd rather have that than a budget though reduction any day. Because I think we've been very, we've managed our cash very well. And even when we've had deferrals before, we've only had a couple times where we've had to borrow. Okay, elimination of one-time funds, both state and federal. The differences between the Legislative Analyst's Office and the Department of Finance for their revenue projections. So they're not seeing things the same. We have near and long-term challenges with inflation and program needs, and we have infrastructure and deferred maintenance needs, which Dr. Millinger talked about that earlier.
I was just gonna say in the CSBA Day with Senator Joe Bogue, she mentioned about when we were talking about facilities and getting the state to put a school facilities bond on the ballot. She talked about the problem that some districts are having with passing a bond. They've done it several times and they do not have they just have failed each time, not through effort, but just based on their community. And she asked for ideas on how to solve that problem, because what we're creating those communities that are passing bonds each and every single time with school districts that are not able to do so, creating just a huge gap in the facilities of this district versus this district. So one thing that we talked about was changing the conversation from one of go for a bond or parcel tax and do this on the backs of your community members versus putting schools into the conversation in infrastructure. Consider them part of your infrastructure bill or appropriation bill for infrastructure. And if you're worried about everybody running amok with, asking for money for their facilities, putting parameters on it, like you have to be a district of, that's gone 3 times for a bond, and facilities that are over 30, 50 years old, something like that, if you have fiscal concerns at the state level. So she was super interested in that angle of having that conversation and starting that conversation of helping those school districts address their facility issues in a different manner, because they just have challenges in their community of passing a bond. So she was interested, and her little staff person were writing notes like crazy. So maybe that is something that she can begin, she has that enthusiasm level to bring that idea and have that conversation with colleagues, that maybe we can change the way we do things. She was interested in changing the way we do things because she feels like we have a broken system.
Another pressure, I'm not going to read this line by line, there's a lot of data up there, is our aging bus fleet. I do have some stats on just how old of our buses are, and then how much each type of bus costs. And we do have 14 just of our CNG buses that we kind of consider them our new buses because we got them with a grant, but they're already 13 years old. And they have up to 175,000 miles on them with each bus. And we have we have 3 CNG buses that are in the 6 to 7 years old with about average of 60,000 miles on them. So we do have an aging light fleet for sure, which is like our maintenance and delivery vehicles, although we've been able to buy a couple over the last several years. But our aging bus fleet would be another pressure on the budget and something that bond funds could pay for. Okay, so our next steps is, we just really will continue to monitor enrollment and ADA. And that correlates into looking at staffing and position control for the next fiscal year. Review any restricted balance. Part of kind of at this task, now that we have the majority of the year over, we can say, okay, what has been our unused restricted dollars? And is there anything on the unrestricted side of the budget we can go ahead and now, especially the funds that won't carry over, that we can say, okay, we didn't use that, we didn't fill this position, so now I can go ahead and start identifying a little bit more than we have, charging some unrestricted line items to the restricted side of the budget. So that's what we'll do that as we gear up to building the next year budget. We'll just, we'll have to be able to adjust and pivot based on the governor's May revise. We'll kind of expand our budget committee meetings. Right now, it's just been very informational, kind of one-sided with some question and answers, but have that actually be more of a working people. We need more participants though, because sometimes, it's hard to get people to, they worked a full day. So we understand that sometimes it's hard to manage, and you're on lots of committees, just like, and then you're a parent of kids in school in lots of sports. So finding that time, and then just collaborate with our partners as we build fiscal solvency plan, but also as we continue the programs that we have, because we do have a lot of good things happening at Graham. We do, so. Is there any questions?
Maybe you should just become part of a sports booster.
I think some of those events sound fun.
Jenny, what's our participation numbers for TK?
Our participation numbers, I don't have that. I have an enrollment. I can look that up and tell you before the meeting's over. I have some enrollment data that I just keep on me.
I'd be interested in, because my reason for asking that is how much the TK number might have affected our leveling off of enrollment and attendance.
Because normally they would come in the next year, they're already here. So I'm kind of weird.
Right.
Yeah, I do have our summary by site, by grade, that as, so someone's yelling how much, I think in the background, how much?
72.
Yeah.
72 in TK. And then, so this year we had 72 come in.
I'd have to look at my numbers.
We can provide a response on a Friday update.
It'd be interesting to see that, how that's affecting budget and numbers and all, and particularly then how that's affecting our overall numbers. Because is that why we've leveled off?
It's definitely going to add to where we would normally see just a bigger class. That makes logical sense.
It's an interesting point. I was on that CBEDS enrollment slide. I went from year 18-19 to 23-24. And that's a difference of about 380 students total. that have been lost, which averages out to 63 students a year. So that 72 number is very interesting to see.
I'm just wondering then how that is affecting then as we try to plan for the future and how accurate our estimates are. I think they might be affected differently. And if the students in TK are already here and we're really not even getting any new students then in kindergarten, or it's a very small number, it's interesting just seeing that sometimes. I have a very important question to ask you. Very important. Have you ever had anything less than a positive certification?
Yes,
You have?
yes.
Well, I'm glad that, how many?
We had one negative,
Yeah,
and that was,
we had a disapproved budget
and then
and
we had a couple qualified.
yeah.
Well,
More
I think
time.
you've done an excellent job. So
Thank you. The state does publish birth rate data and we'll send that to you by region. But it's usually a lot higher than you actually receive because you don't know when some of those age groups will come into your school district. Did they start? It's usually a little bit older. And then we do have some private kindergarten. We have K3, I think, at Mount Calvary. We have the Christian school. So, we do have some of those that aren't necessarily RIMS kids. So, but the state does track birth rates. And every once in a while, if they see a swing that's not just going low, they'll send it to the county office. County office will disseminate it and share it with the CBOs.
Thank you. It really does appear like we're leveling off, but I want to make sure it's not just because we've added TK. Thanks.
Well, and flat enrollment also has its challenges because when you're no longer funded on a prior year guarantee that's higher and you're funded on current, you most likely could be funded on current year after it stabilizes. You don't necessarily lose the students in pretty little 30 student pockets. And so your corresponding staff expenses don't go down relative to that stabilization. So, so sometimes it's like, I don't want to continue to decline, but at least you have that benefit of the prior year guarantee while you are. It's positive though. We're gonna end it on positive. It's good things happening here, right?
It is.
I have a question, and goes back to page 21, the specific increases and or decreases in subsequent years. Just wondering whether these different positions are already included in our projections, in our budgeted numbers. Okay.
Oh, and what I handed out, because I thought about it after I did the slide, I won't talk about it, but I did do a little summary of our ADA differences between actual and funded. Because when you look at the amount per student, you can see how enrollment decline has impacted RIM over the last, 5 to 7 years.
Awesome. I just want actually clarification, make sure I asked my question correctly. We have those included as expenditures in our budgets. Okay.
They're just in a different line item because the funding source we haven't laid them off, and so they're included in just on the unrestricted side of the budget.
Thank you so much, Jenny. We always take all of our questions in stride and I always have a good thought out answer, so I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and move forward to our action calendar. That is 11.0 discussion and action. 11.1 superintendent approval of resolution number 23/24-11 for supporting Senate Bill 1429. Actually, we have some amended language here, so I will read that as we amended in 2.1. It is SB 1429, resolution number 23/24-11 includes language of support for ADA reimbursements for snowstorms. Fiscal impact, none. Now, all of you should have that revised resolution language in front of you. It's just small edits there, but I'll go ahead and open it up for a motion.
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Bill? Okay, let's open this up for discussion then here. A slight change in the verbiage in what was posted on our board agenda, but it is an important distinction of we've been asked to sponsor the bill. So this is not a typical resolution of support or oppose. Any district or LEA can pass a resolution to say that they, oh, I support SB whatever, AB whatever, or we oppose it. This is a slightly different resolution in that we have worked with Senator Achobo's office to have SB 1429 introduced. And as a result of that, we've been asked to be a sponsor of the bill, which is not typical, but a really wonderful collaboration that we've experienced. So to just SB 1429, for those who don't know, it is an immense portion of Ed Code 46392, specifically in A. And this is all about reimbursement as a result of decreased attendance during natural disasters. At present, that Ed Code does not include snowstorms. As a result of the March 2023 major storms that were declared a federal disaster, there were several inquiries and reports put out by our county supervisor, by the county sheriff, and as the county as a whole. As part of those reports that were reviewed by Senator Achobo's office, they wanted to do something about fixing that and ensuring that districts going forward, particularly districts like ours, are covered in the event of decreased attendance due to natural disasters by specifically adding snowstorms to that list. So that is the piece of legislation that we worked on with the senator's office. And that is the resolution in front of you to go forward with sponsorship. SB 1429 is set for a Senate Education hearing on the 20th. So if we pass this resolution, we need to make sure that we have a representative of the district at that hearing in Sacramento before the Senate Education Committee on the 20th. So that's a lot of information, background info. Any questions I can answer for anyone here?
Well, just a point of order. Do you need to read the resolution into the minutes?
I do know the resolution as amended is part of our, we had a revision, a packet already prepared. So the amendment replaces support with the word sponsorship.
Right, I was just asking if this needs to be read in the minutes.
No, it'll be put into the minutes in full though.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and call for the vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. What I will do is I will send this, a copy of this resolution will be sent to the senator's office. In addition to speak at the hearing, we also need to submit a letter of support to the Senate chair of the the chair of the Senate Education Committee. I have already prepared that sample letter. It takes the resolution language and puts it into the letter form. So I'm happy you are all more than welcome to review that. So that is the action that we'll take. And then we just need to make sure that we have, again, that representative present in Sacramento on next Wednesday.
So you're gonna go as board president?
I have tentatively made arrangements to be able to go, but I wanted to open it to the floor in case there's anyone else that you might want to attend. I don't know if we can have more than one representative, but that might be.
No, one person speaks.
There we go.
Well, just because I know.
Yeah,
Just
Cindy's been there.
Good job. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and keep moving to 11.2, educational services, approval of the addendum to the school plan for student achievement, the SIPSAs, for RIM High School for the 2023-2024 school year, fiscal impact and none. Is a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Mellinger? Second? Second, Scott. Any discussions? Not hearing any, let's go ahead and call for the vote on this. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 11.3 business services, approval of audit contract and Measure W audit contract with I Bailey, fiscal impact estimated $47,000, budget source unrestricted general funds. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
No? Discussion.
I asked this question before. I just want to confirm that all the monies are expended out of W so that we don't have to spend $47,000 for another audit.
Yes, we're going to work with Royce, who when he came and presented the audit report on how to try to bypass the current year. And that's $5,000 as a separate for the performance audit for Measure W. So before he retires, and they're coming up next week, we're supposed to work on that to, at least it would be $5,000 cheaper if we could do that.
Good, thank you.
Any other discussion? Let's go ahead and call for the vote here. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 11.4 business services, approval of resolution number 23/24-10, approving volunteers to be deemed as employees for the purposes of workers' compensation pursuant to Labor Code Section 3364.5, fiscal impact 9. You have a motion?
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Scott? Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote on this. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 11.5 business services, approval to reject all bids submitted in response to the roofing bid for various sites and re-advertise the scope of work for the roofing project, fiscal impact 9. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Scott? Any discussion? Just for clarification, we did receive some bids, but they were both deemed non-responsive. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that makes sense. So we'll need to reject and re-advertise. Anything else? Go ahead and call for the vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.0 consent calendar. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull? Please note that we did amend 12.6 personnel services to correct some clerical errors in 2.1 of the agenda. Give everyone a moment to make sure that they don't want to pull anything.
You want to see? Oh, I thought she was talking. I'm good, Scott. Thank you very much for asking.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I second it. I have not read.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Please.
I saw your list.
Let's go. Okay.
Okay, so with that, I will call for a motion on all items within the consent calendar, noting that 12.6 was amended. We have a motion on it. That's 12.1 all the way through 12.14, by the way.
So moved. Second.
Scott, any discussion? With that, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move past 13.0. We've been adding to the consent calendar. 14.0 governance scheme future agenda items planning. 14.1 time allotted for the board of trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. Do you have anything to add aside from what we already outlined in our governance calendar? It is a robust calendar.
Really?
I'd say so. With that, we'll go ahead and move forward to 15.0 future meeting dates, regular board meeting, March 14th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. That is at 24740 San Moritz Way, California, Crestline, California, at 92325. the district office, that's what that is. We also have a board meeting workshop on March 28th, 2024, 4 p.m. here at the district office, same address. And a regular board meeting on April 18th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. Again, same address. 16.0 recess to closed session if necessary. That is not necessary this evening, so we'll move on to 17.0 adjournment. 17.1 adjourned meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Scott? Was that, any discussion? Call for the vote on it. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and, adjourn the meeting. That was unanimous. The meeting was adjourned at 7:13 p.m. Thank you.